Hello, welcome to Grad Chat by PhD Balance, where we talk about topics of grad school beyond academic research and that may be a bit more difficult to talk about in our day-to-day. I'm your host, Linda Corcoran, and I'm currently finishing up my master's in food science in Ireland. For PhD Balance, I'm the Grad Chat lead and a Twitter coordinator. If you missed it, we are now pre-recording episodes before release. All episodes are still available via video on the PhD Balance YouTube channel and via audio on all major streaming platforms. But don't forget to subscribe on your chosen platform to get notifications about new episodes. Our topic today is isolation in grad school, and I'm excited to welcome our guest, Elana Gloger. Elana is a brand new PhD candidate in health psychology. Go her! She is also the creator and host and all amazing round PhD podcaster of Dear Grad Student Podcast. So welcome, Elana. We're so pleased to have you on Grad Chat.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be on Grad Chat. I feel like PhD Balance and Grad Chat was one of the first places online that I saw people having conversations that I was interested in having, and it's been a huge inspiration for me. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Honestly, we're so happy to have you. I guess diving right in, not such a nice topic to talk about, but a very important topic to talk about, and that is isolation in grad school. And isolation has taken on a new meaning in the past few years, but even if you're back in person, isolation can still happen. And I guess to start out, what was your experience? Do we want to start with starting grad school?
Oh yeah, goodness. I think it's really great that you pointed out that that's really changed, because I think that there's something to be said about, like, if COVID didn't happen, we would still be having this episode, right? Like, isolation is rampant and it's so easy to fall into because we really are in our own little worlds in grad school. Like, who knows what I'm researching? No one knows what I do in my life. Absolutely. Like, they know, but like they don't know. So there's that. But then there's the COVID thing, which is like a cruel trick, because in an already isolating world that we all live in, we are further pulled from reality. So you're exactly right. I want to start with like the beginning and the non-COVID stuff, because hopefully years and years and years later, people will listen to this episode and they'll be like, hey, it's not COVID anymore. What about me? So this is for you. So I was extremely lonely as a first year grad student. And I talk about this a lot on my podcast. You know, I came straight through undergrad. You're like, that's a really good idea. Okay, depending on the program you're in, you may just be like the youngest student, which is with my case. So I think age can be a really big factor. And I think one thing I never realized with age is like the culture difference. And it's actually funny now that I'm like 26, you know, somehow inching towards 27. Bleh. I am like noticing this with like Gen Z. I'm like, what are they wearing? What are they saying? Like, what are those motions that their bodies are making? And like, I sound like a grandma, but when I started grad school, I was, you know, the young person that people were like, what does that mean? What are you saying? So there's just like some general life things that can feel isolating. But at the same time, it really does go back to what I said, right? No one knows what you're doing. And so you have to really make an effort to engage with the life that you're living. That's like what I like to say, and sort of lean into the opportunities around you. And I think, although I don't want to focus on this, I think there's also something to be said that people don't always enter grad school in the most supportive of environments. So I won't go into particular detail here. I've talked a little bit about it on the podcast. I had a very difficult time socially my first year, and I like didn't really make a lot of friends. There was a lot of negative energy perhaps sent my way, and that was like awful. Although my lab and things have been great, which is, it's often the other way around for people. But regardless, isolation hit me really hard. Was I depressed? I don't really know. I wasn't like allowing myself to go there, but it was really, really tough first year. Did you have a similar experience? Like, did you have other things that isolated you first year too?
Yeah, so I guess for me, I only had 6 months before COVID hit after I went into grad school.
Oh, you're COVID cohort.
Yeah, I am.
Ooh,
So,
that's like
but
my
yeah, no.
favorite coin term. I like I made merch for it because I was really like COVID cohort, but like it's not a thing. It's not a thing.
No, literally, I had 6 months and then it was lockdown, and ever since I've been at home at this desk that I'm currently at working for the entirety of my master's.
It's like suddenly I feel like I am simply the expert on grad school pre-COVID because I'm the only one left. But, I was in the middle of my third year. So for me, it was such a weird time for it to hit because I was having this like transition within my department and personally going from like an early grad student to like an advanced grad student, like an advanced PhD student. And then suddenly we hit COVID. And now I'm halfway through my fifth year and we're starting things back in person. And there's, 20 new people in my department that I'm getting to know. And I'm in a totally different position for advice giving and questions. And suddenly I'm leaving soon, which is like great. It's like great. But also, did I utilize my time? Like, was that it? Is that grad school? So it's a really weird feeling. It's a really weird
It
feeling.
is. It's really weird. We literally had a department meeting the other day, and I was like, "Who are these people?"
Yeah. Well, and
I know
like,
my supervisor.
so this actually speaks to a great point on your original question. Like, how do you deal with the isolation? So, I mentioned like I was very socially isolated my first year. And so now, with any new incoming first year, I'm literally like, hello, I'm Elana. Here is my phone number. I want you to text me. We're gonna hang out. And like every happy hour we go to, it's like, the first years and like a couple of other students, and like Alana's there. Like fifth year Alana, who's like washed up, she's there and she will be your friend and she will talk to you about
But
everything.
that's great. Like, I wish I had that. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that I only had 6 months. I went in. I was my PI's only grad student. I was, you know, kind of put in an office that was shared, but usually it was up to the PI's other students to introduce everyone. So I was kind of just sitting there and I'm like,
Yeah.
ah, what do I
Right.
do?
And that's like the tough thing, right? There's sort of like the objective and the subjective, right? So like when you're literally the only student in your lab, or some students I know are like I think of like Tracy Edwards, even though I don't know if this is actually her case, but just the sense that like she is a physics student, but she's in a chemistry lab. So there's some people who like their studies in one area, but their lab is in another one, where objectively you might be genuinely isolated. And then there's kind of my situation where like I had a lot of people in my lab, and again, great lab environment. And I had a good decent amount in my cohort. I was regularly in my department, and yet I still felt isolated. And like both are valid. And I think both require not necessarily similar solutions, but both require attention. And so in my case, one big thing that's been helpful, at least post first year, just madness, was really leaning into making sure other students don't have a similar experience that I did, which has helped my own isolation. Like I said, like I'm constantly reaching out to people and I'm like, hello, I am your friend. Send me a text. I'm like, text, how's first year going? And it's like, am I annoying? Yes. Do I enjoy it? Yes. But that's me. Not everyone's this extroverted. Not everyone started a podcast because they felt isolated. We make choices. It's choices.
I mean, it's totally fine. And I would feel probably a bit overwhelmed, but I'd also be very appreciative of someone who is being literally coming up to me and being like, hello, are you okay?
Right. And like obviously I try to read people, right? I'm not just going up to someone who's like clearly uncomfortable being like, "Hello. Are you uncomfortable?" Like I'm not trying to make it worse, but like I check in with people because this sucks at times and I recognize that. And so I feel like a big thing for me, solution wise, right? I've obviously described the problem here. A big thing solution wise for me first year, pre COVID, slightly more regular times. First was I actually got a pet. And a lot of people have seen on my social media recently that pet has actually passed away, which is it was tragic and awful, and you can listen to my episode about that if you want to hear me cry. But having a pet and taking care of something unrelated to grad school that will give you unconditional love, if you have the time and capacity, was like life-changing for me. Cats are super easy to take care of, so my solution was a cat. You can get a snake, you can get a dog, you can get a parrot. I mean, whatever tickles your fancy. It can just be very rewarding, and it gives you responsibilities and to-dos outside of grad school. And I have found that that really helps with boundary setting. Like, if you have a ton to do for PhD, but hey, I need to go walk my dog, it just gives you a moment to breathe, right? So big fan of pets if you can afford it, if it's something accessible, if you're not allergic, you know, all of the caveats. I would also say, and this is another theme that comes up in Dear Grad Student, is getting to know yourself is incredibly, incredibly important. And the reason I say that is, in order to engage in self-care and in order to understand how to solve the problem internally of loneliness and isolation, you need to know yourself well enough to know what will solve that. So a little bit of self-exploration can be hard when we're feeling isolated, because it can kind of be painful, because you kind of have to look in and be like, this is who I am. Maybe this is why I'm lonely. Like, I'm a homebody. It takes me a lot to get out of the house. And that was like a hard realization, right? I kind of had to like face that. But get to know yourself. What makes you feel good? What makes you feel relaxed? And then don't judge whatever that is. I talked about this on my most recent episode with Rachel Rivera. Don't judge it. My thing was like playing The Sims for 12 hours first year and watching all of America's Next Top Model. I watched like all 22 seasons. Was that good for my brain? Who knows? That's not what was important, right? That just helped me relax and escape for a little bit, because that's what I needed. So find the things you love and lean into them first and foremost to feel better. And then I think it's about filling your life with some sense of purpose, right? And so now we kind of get to the COVID times, because by the time I was doing any of that, COVID hit. So I can't speak past any of that.
Yeah.
But I started a podcast. So I don't know if I recommend that, but it was lonely.
I mean, I have also done similar things. I'm working on Grad Chat.
Right. You get it. You get it.
But I went too far in that I put too much into my life, and then I went straight into burnout. So don't do that.
Oh, no. I did that too. Let's not. I think, and again, I talk about this it's like funny, all of my themes on the podcast, maybe they all surround isolation, because I'm sitting here like, wow, every single like podcast trope is coming up. But December of 2020, so like I started the podcast in August 2020, or that's when I released. December 2020 was one of the worst months of my life. Other than like, I mean, now my cat has died and there's been other things, like terrible things have also happened. But I remember sitting on the couch and I was dealing with a few things. I had some undiagnosed premenstrual dysphoric disorder going on. Let me rephrase that. Diagnosed, not dealing with, premenstrual dysphoric disorder and burnout, and my whole PhD delayed by COVID, which is why it's amazing I'm finally a candidate, and just a lot of things. And I remember sitting on the couch and I was looking at my partner and I was like, I said to Luke, I was like, I think I'm depressed. Like, I'm not good. And I remember him being like, what? Since when? And I was like, wow, like, I'm really good at hiding that. That's incredibly unhealthy. And just realizing, like, I need to say these things out loud and not just to myself. And I think that, once again, it kind of speaks to isolation. I think in some ways, because we're in our own bubbles, and like, again, no one knows what I do, like, in my life. I explained it and they're kind of like, I don't get it. And I'm like, I write stuff and sometimes they publish it without paying me. And they're like, got it. But because we do that, like, we keep things to ourselves because we're like, like, I compartmentalize it. Like, that's PhD me. Like, you know, whatever. But when we do that, when it leaks into personal things, like, hey, I'm feeling terrible, you need to talk to people about that. And not necessarily as extroverted as me, but even if it's one person that's trustworthy, or one person you think might be trustworthy, because I know we don't always all have those people, it's really important to talk about where you're at, I think.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's I'm a massive mental health advocate. I
Yes.
literally, every single meeting that I have, or nearly every single meeting, I don't do it with my supervisor because she doesn't appreciate it. Um, but I do a mental health check with everyone, and people are free to say I'm fine if they want to say I'm fine, or if they don't want to get into it, that is up to
Hmm.
them. But I'm always super honest, and some people are a bit taken back by it. Like last week, I was having really bad side effects from my medication, and I told everyone I'm having really bad side effects from my
Right.
medication. And but over time, when people get more used to me, they start being honest too, because they're like, Linda's honest, I can be honest.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I feel like I'm always honest at a baseline, but usually it's shocking to people and they're like, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That is just me." But I love that you do that because one of my favorite parts of my PhD, well, so I've also talked about this, but I switched from being clinical psychology to health psychology. So my research was always in health, but it just means I'm no longer being trained as a therapist. So I did that for a long time. I like did the full training. I could have been, on the track to licensure, but it just wasn't right for me. However, when I was being trained, we'll meet weekly with the supervisor to discuss any issues that come up that we need consultation on, a little bit of training. And one of my supervisors, one of my very, very favorite supervisors, and one of the best training opportunities I ever had, ran her supervision meetings like a therapy session in the structure of it. So we would start and be like, what are we going to talk about today? Let's, sort of outline our points and go. And the very end, we all would rate our burnout and be like, all right, what's your burnout out of 10? Does anyone want to talk about it? And of course, all of us by the end of the semester were like, oh my God, I'm a 7 out of 10. Here's all of these things going on. And it was such a relief in a professional space to get to just say, this is where I'm at. And people to say, that's okay. Like, I got you. What do you need from
Oh
me?
yeah,
Amazing, incredible.
it,
Like,
it's
it
so great.
yes. And so I think that this is another thing. Like, as I talk about compartmentalizing, if you can find people in your life who allow you to be your whole self in an academic space or even in a personal space, right? Like, I have friends who are PhD students not at my university. That's great because anything I want to directly complain about, I can go to them for PhD complaints. And people in my current program who know me, day to day life in person regularly, I can have, personal conversations in my academic space. And I think any opportunity to safely, again, safely divulge or be my full authentic self in all spaces I occupy is huge for isolation because it really isn't about quantity. I really think it's about quality. Like if you just even have one or two people that allow you to be that, it's like exponential in the amount of isolation that sort of just starts melting away. And I've experienced it.
Oh yeah, it's really really great, and it like for me when I had isolation. So obviously I was isolated, then COVID hit, and I got more isolated.
Right. Right.
I started joining things, and I joined too many things, but that's beside the point. But one of the things I did join was PhD Balance.
Right.
I'm with PhD Balance since May 2020. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So and honestly, that has been amazing for me. Everyone is really, really awesome. And I know a lot of people say that, but everyone is really awesome. I could ring up or text any of those people at any time, and they would be like, I'm here.
Yeah.
They're
Well, and
honestly amazing.
and that's incredible. I had not realized you'd been there since May 2020. I feel like in my head, I was like, oh yeah, PhD balance, which in my head like started later than that, but it's been around since before even in my mind it was conceptualized. That's incredible. Congratulations. And I think it really speaks to my other favorite thing to talk about, which is academic Twitter. Obviously, there are good and bad things. We all know this. I know most, if not all, of the people listening probably came from academic Twitter. Hello, my peers. However, I think that there's something to be said about a place generally, if you follow the people that make you feel good and not the awful, whatever. Okay, we know this conversation. You really start to find that you aren't alone. That the thing that annoys you about your program, your PI, your cohort, your older students, whatever, someone else is having that experience. I mean, people even talk about leaving programs, switching PIs, things like that. someone's talking about it. So just at a baseline, you have that. But something really cool that's happened with the podcast that I'm sure people can have happen without starting a podcast is you make genuine friends. And I also have people's phone numbers and I'm able to text them. Like one of the closest relationships that I have developed over academic Twitter is with Ryan Lynn Brown, and she runs the account Ryan Science, and she also has a podcast called SciT, and she and I do the same research. So we just found out that we've been like going to conferences and not running into each other. So it was like, oh my God, like, ah. Our mentors knew each other. We're like, what? So that was part of it. But I mean, we text weekly, if not at sometimes in the semester, almost every day. And it is so nice to be like, you get it. You get it. And I didn't know you before Twitter. Like, we started talking on Twitter because I was like, I need to learn R. And she's like, here are resources. Let me know if you need anything. And I was like, I'm in love with you. Do you want to be on my podcast that hasn't started, but I swear I'm not weird? And like, here we are. So
Yeah,
it's
no,
like taking the dive.
it's amazing. Like when I was not big into Twitter before COVID, and then I got into Twitter and it was like amazing.
Yeah. I started
And
my Twitter in like I want to say it was like April 2019, but I didn't know what to do with it. I just like had it and I was like, yeah, okay. Like I had like 200 followers for like a year.
I'm like there. Unlike a lot of people, I don't have separate professional and personal accounts. Some people do. I don't think I'd be able to manage having separate accounts. I would just like accidentally tweet off the wrong one or something.
Yeah.
But that's my choice. If you have two accounts, that's your choice. Whereas I prefer to think that science is a part of me. My research is a part of me, and you don't get one without the rest of me. So you don't get one without the other. You don't get the real me without the science me. You don't get the science me without the real me. It comes mental illness and all.
Yes. Okay. I could not identify with a statement more than that. Honestly, I feel like, and I've talked about this so much, like the turning point in grad school for me. And I also want to say this as a white cisgender female, this comes with some privilege, and I totally understand that. And there are other ways to do this in other spaces that I don't personally have experience with. When you are able to show up fully as yourself, and I said this already, but I really cannot emphasize enough, figuring out to whom and where you can do that, life-changing. I can give one example from my personal life. So I'm bisexual, I'm queer, and it's something that I actually didn't start saying I was queer until recently, which is a whole thing, but I've been bi for a while. I came out in college to my boyfriend and he was like, yeah, I know. And I was like crying and he's like, yeah, we know this. And I was like, okay, are you sure? And I slowly started coming out sort of in a professional space. And it was just one of those things, like my mom asked me, she's like, why? Like, why is this important for people to know? And it just became the point of like, because when people didn't know, there was like internal agony. And it had nothing to do with what I was doing in my day to day. I'm dating a very cisgender male. Like, it has nothing to do with that. It's just, it felt like I was lying just by omission, right? Just by not telling people. And that just contributed to feeling like people didn't know me. And
another type of isolation.
Exactly. That's exactly my point, right?
No.
So there's layers to this, and it was the same reason that I started talking about having PMDD and like, again, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. I was like, I am not good. And like, I want people to know why and be like, I'm not ashamed of this. Like, my period sucks, you know? Like, this is just part of me. And so exactly what you said, being able to show up and say like, this is all of who I am, take it or leave it, and I'm comfortable with that is it's a very long journey to get there. But once you're there is like fantastic. You know, I don't have to mask everywhere I go. You know, like that's so much energy.
It can be hard to drop that, but
oh yeah, I still catch myself like when I was here and I said, oh, I'm bisexual, oh, I'm queer, like I'm still adding that on to be like, no, validate yourself, you know, like say it out loud, you know, it's a practice.
I 100% get it.
Yeah.
I took forever with my sexuality, and that's valid too. That journey was valid, but it felt like absolute internal turmoil, all of that stuff. But I just turn up and I'm like, I am here. I am a queer, multiply disabled person. And for me, it's not optional to leave that at home, because I don't want to deal with the people who don't want to be friendly with me because of that, who don't want to be nice to me because of that. I
Yeah.
don't want to deal with them. I don't want to accidentally end up working with them, working for them, working in the vicinity of them if I can help it.
Right. I think it's so valuable to say too, like all of us deserve exactly that kind of, I don't want to call it respect for ourselves, because again, that comes with a lot of privilege that we're able to choose in some cases. But being able to get to a point, being comfortable saying, because sometimes people will be like, well, I don't want them to know I have depression. But getting to the next level of being like, if they know and they don't like that, maybe I don't want to work with them, is a really important level that I've gotten to in different areas that I think it's just important for people to think on. I don't know people's personal experiences, but this is also why I started making that like LGBTQ merch, because I was like, I need to start wearing things in science spaces that say I'm bi, that say I'm queer, I'm part of this community, and that's why people have attached to it. But another great person who's so good about bringing their authentic self into Twitter is Raven the science maven, who's been on my podcast. She's a huge inspiration for me for that, because she's literally like, I'm bringing all of this, and every time people call her out on it, she just like retweets them and like quote tweets them, and she's like, nope, this is me. And I'm like, yes. You tell them this is great for me to remind myself, like, I can be all of this and I'm still a scientist and I'm still a PhD student, and you can't take that from me, at all.
There is it's great whenever I see it, and I'm so happy whenever I see it. I do absolutely, I think my part of it, my wanting to do it, comes from being autistic and not understanding any different. I don't
That's a
get
great
it.
reason.
But that's my reasoning. I do understand that not everyone can do that, and that is up to them. And
Sure.
it is a personal decision. It's the same as disability. It's
Mm-hmm.
the same as being queer, being LGBTQ plus. Who you are out to, who you tell, who you don't tell, the amount that you tell people is up to you,
Totally. Totally.
and that is that.
No,
But
absolutely.
I do find that when you are open, I have received very little backlash, and that may be because I'm white. Um, that may be that I get away with it a bit more. But I've only had people be appreciative. I've had a couple of people say, "Oh, you shouldn't tell people you're autistic. That's you don't want to be
Oh,
known as that person in academia. That's neurodevelopmental." But I'm like, go away.
people have said that to you?
Oh yeah, people say all sorts of things.
I'm sorry, I had to absorb that for a moment. That's rude and awful. And also I disagree. Okay, anyways, off that.
No, yeah, no.
I agree with you, right? You make such a good point. This is not Alana being like, everyone needs to come out. Hello, please reveal your disability to me, like that. This is not what Linda or I are saying, but we're more talking about when we find ways, safe ways, that's why I keep using that word, safe ways to show up authentically in our academic spaces, where we don't have to code switch and compartmentalize to whatever degree is safe and appropriate for us to do so. It really relieves that isolation, because I find for me that PhD me felt very isolated without being the rest of me. She was very lonely. And so when I could just be, I mean, sure, do I talk too much? Absolutely. I'm a podcast host. Do I need to calm that down in academic spaces? Sure. But as you all can see, I have a lot of mannerisms, right? I'm very animated when I speak. Taking that away in academic spaces was like torture for 2 years when I did it. And I finally was like, no, I need to bring that. So that's even a good example of there's nothing to reveal there. That's just the way that I am. So there's different levels that don't always require you to reveal the deepest, darkest parts of you if that's how you feel about those things. But showing up as yourself is one of the best ways, in my opinion, to reduce isolation, because it's the work internally. Like, we can't always control who likes us, who invites us to places, right? All of those like quantitative number of people engaging with us, but we can control how we show up to spaces, how we, regulate ourselves in spaces to a certain degree. And for me, that was one of the biggest things. And I think as we think about COVID and being still as one person in my home office, that's almost the only thing I have control over. So I put a lot of work into that, and academic Twitter is one of the ways I do it. The podcast is one of the ways I do it. Keeping up with people is one of the ways I do it. And that might look different for people listening or watching today, but getting to know yourself and like learning what that is, I feel like is the start to your journey, I guess, reducing isolation, because I don't think it stops after grad school. Like, can we say that? Like, I think this is adulthood, turns out.
Yeah, no, I've heard a lot of people say that unfortunately it comes with you. It can get worse during a postdoc because you no longer have a cohort. And obviously your cohort depends on where you are, whether you're in a big university or a small university, what discipline you're in. But you go from having a cohort of some sort to yourself being in a job.
Yeah, and it's like, even if you have grad students around you, right, you're not a grad student. And even if you have a PI who's super friendly with you and collaborative, it's like you're still not equal on their level, right? Like there's still a professional boundary, which is like appropriate. Yeah, I'm like excited yet terrified to be a postdoc, because I'm like, I'll have my PhD, but then I'll also be like, I have no friends, so I don't know what that's gonna be like.
No, it's we actually just had an episode last week when we're recording it. It will have been in December with the amazing Dr. Kayla Singleton and Dr. Ubada.
I saw that, but I haven't listened because I've been burnt out. Yes.
No, they were absolutely amazing, and they both said that they chose their postdoc based on very strict criteria, and one of them that Kayla specifically mentioned was that she didn't want to be isolated, she didn't want to be sad. And
I love that.
Yeah. And I'm like,
what do you want out of a postdoc? Yeah, it's like, I would like to not be sad, please. This is a thing for me as well. I don't talk a lot about religion on my podcast, but I am Jewish as heck. And where I live currently does not have a big Jewish community, but where I grew up did. And I noticed the difference. So that is actually a huge thing. I have a list of potential postdocs, and all of them have communities I could decide to engage with or not. And I just learned that was an important thing for me. So sometimes isolation, again, is just as painful as it can be. It gives you information about what do I need? And turns out that's one of the things I need. So I think, again, like tuning into yourself and being like, well, wait, why do I feel so bad? Like, what's missing? What can I fill?
It can be very difficult to do that, but it's so important. And if you are in the position where you can get therapy, that is a very important thing about finding yourself, finding what you really need. It can take a while, depending on who you are. Yes. Always advocate for the therapy.
Big therapy fan. I have like episodes on like why you should get therapy in grad school if you can afford it and access it. Like I might as well have an episode called that, but huge therapy fan.
No, I'm in a country where we thankfully can access therapy for low cost, or some people can access it for no cost. So thankfully I'm able to get that.
Can I speak on that just for 1 second? I think that this is a point that people don't always know, because I'm a psychology student. So anyone studying in the US who is at a university getting their PhD right now, if your school has a psychology department, most likely those students are training in a clinic that is available to you for low cost or no cost. So when I was a PhD student training to be a therapist, we had a training clinic separate from the university counseling center. So sometimes you have to go to the department website, like the psychology department website, to find this. And we had a sliding scale fee where people paid up to $50 a session, and most people paid $5 or $10. And we're talking about PhD students with a high level of supervision, where like multiple people are consulting to figure out how to best help you. It is incredible therapy when you do it from these kinds of avenues, and it is affordable. My brother did it at his university he got therapy, and it was free. And he was an undergrad, but it was free for anyone who did it. So if you are a student at a US university, check your psychology department, see if they have a clinic that is free or low cost to you. That is a resource I feel like not everyone knows. often they are different than counseling centers. So their availability, everything might be a little bit different. But I cannot recommend that more highly.
Also, if you're not in the US,
Yeah, I just
ask
don't
your
know.
university.
Yes.
Ask them. Most universities in Ireland and the UK have free counselling.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, most, even if you can't get it off the National Health Service, even if you can't, you can sometimes get it at the university. Sometimes you'll be referred out. I know my undergrad university, if they were oversubscribed, they gave people a voucher for 5 to 10 free sessions.
Oh,
And
more reasons to move out of the US.
but that is great. Go get the therapy. But I think we've been talking for a long time, but I want to say that in summary, we've been saying that isolation is felt by most people. You are not
Yes.
alone in this. And unfortunately, it's going to take a bit of work to
Yeah.
find out where you're at and how's best to combat it.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, Elana, um, if you had one tip or one piece of advice for people that they should take away when combating isolation, what would it be?
I'm going to give 1.5 tips because I think that
Okay.
what I want to say, it comes with a caveat that I don't think that I've said explicitly, but I think is really important as a reminder that I have to remind myself of. But I'll circle back, if you will, to my point about, and I want to make sure I word this properly. When it comes to combating isolation, get to know yourself and act accordingly. And the half of that I want to add on is that you deserve to feel well. And I think that we overlook just reminding ourselves that we deserve to feel okay. And like you said, it takes work. Luckily, as PhD students, we all know how to work hard. But just knowing, when we put in hard work in grad school, it's not always like a 1-to-1, right? You could work on something for 8 hours and get like a sentence. But when it comes to self-care, I actually find that it's usually like an exponential thing, right? Where you might put in a lot of work at the beginning, and then as you go on, it kind of takes less and less effort once you know you, where you can do or put less effort into what do I need for myself, and then the payoff is huge. So get to know yourself and remind yourself, like, the time that you put into getting to know you, you're worth that. You deserve that. And for those of you listening who are like, but I have all this PhD work, let me tell you, nothing suffers in my life more than my PhD when I am unwell. So it's also a way to take care of your studies. Taking care of you and working on that isolation will improve how your PhD goes because you will show up better. So do that. That's my tip.
Yeah. And also, unfortunately, your PhD will not love you back.
Oh, the worst from we don't need that. Just forget that. No, just kidding. It's true. It's true. It's a hard pill to
I hate
swallow,
it,
but
but
yeah.
it is where we are. And you can do so many different things when it comes
Oh
to
yeah.
combating isolation.
Oh
You
yeah.
can do Some people are very into exercise, some people are very into computer games, some people are very into loading their schedule too much and then being overwhelmed. Me.
Mm-hmm. Right, like I got into like crocheting. I'm training for a half marathon. I play The Sims. I play Planet Coaster. I binge watch Downton Abbey 6 times in a row. Like whatever it is for you, do it. And I
Yeah.
had no hobbies before grad school. Like I had to learn all of that in grad school. So,
And I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that PhD Balance has a Discord called PhD Stronger Together, where we have different channels where you can chat with people. We also do scheduled co-working from home and socials and a coffee break every Wednesday. So you can meet some people from around the world, and generally there's always someone on. So even if you want to start someplace, that might be a nice place to start. We've loads of people.
I love that. And do you mind if I shout out the podcast for a second and let people know where
Go
they can
ahead.
find it? Perfect. So if you've been listening to me talk way too much today and somehow want to hear more of that, you can find Dear Grad Student on your favorite podcast app. It is just Dear Grad Student. You can also go to deargradstudent.com. If you want to see me talk about myself, you can go to @DearGradStudent on Twitter or Dear Grad Student Pod on Instagram, but I am admittedly terrible at Instagram. But deargradstudent.com, you can find literally everything for the podcast. It's a good time. I am so inspired and in awe by the community that PhD Balance has built. It's something that I'm like, wow, that would be cool, but I will never have the time or capacity to do that for the podcast. So definitely everyone listening, go engage with that because that is incredible. A lot of time is put into that for sure.
Yes, I would like to also say that PhD Balance is run by about 20 people. It is not one person.
Oh yeah, don't do that either. I have a team that I'm building actually because I am overwhelmed and I need help. And that was hard to admit, but I'm starting to do that. So wow, 20
Yay.
people. I feel so much better.
No, everyone thinks one person runs PhD Balance or maybe two. It's a big team. We have a massive team.
Yeah. Mostly Dear Grad Student is run by me. I get some help with social media and transcripts and a resource list that I'm building. But until August of this year, it's been just me. So if you're like, wow, that is wild, it is. Don't do that. And ask for help when you need it.
Always ask for help and just do your best. That's the main thing.
Absolutely.
Like anything, do not fall into the trap of trying to be perfect at self-care.
Oh, also that. Yeah, you'll never reach that. You know what self-care is good self-care? Completed self-care. It's like a dissertation. The best self-care is completed self-care.
Absolutely. So I think that's all we have time for today. We've been talking for ages, but thank you so much for being a guest, Elana. That was amazing. So this has been Grad Chat by PhD Balance. Our episodes are now posted simultaneously on our podcast and YouTube channel Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. To find our podcast episodes, you can search Grad Chat on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can connect with PhD Balance on our website at phdbalance.com or on social media at PhD_balance. Until next time, goodbye and take care of yourself.
Bye.